Warning, explicit content. This material may not be suitable for children. Listener discretion is advised.
What up, everybody? Welcome to Mining Minds. Jason James, Chris Rodriguez, Dino Brunson's going to take the back seat on this one, so you won't probably hear a lot from him. But we got our guest, Tim Chapman, in here. Old Chap Dog. How you doing, Tim?
Good, you?
Good, man. We're excited to have you. Tim's got a lot of experience. He's got a lot of knowledge. He's started out as an operator. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I guess that's fair to say.
And then he moved into the safety and health professional side of things. But your story didn't start there. It started as a country boy from Georgia.
Yeah, I guess so. If you want to open up that way. So those that don't know me, I'm Timothy Chapman, born and raised in Carrollton, Georgia, which is a small town on the Georgia-Alabama line. Been pretty fascinated as a kid, just worked hard, had a lot of goals, put myself out there. Went to college, played ball for University of Georgia, lasted about 2.5 years. I got in a bad crash. Broke my right femur, kind of ended my football career. Stayed focused in a couple of different other construction worlds and atmospheres. I've always been drawn to construction, mostly because it paid good. And now that I was instant results, it was a lot of fun. Got married, met my wife. I've been married for about 17 years, I believe. 2 kids. They're getting big for sure. And then, my career has kind of bounced all over the place. I also used to own my own company. And then after owning my own company and sold it, thought I could go on vacation for about 2.5 years and deep sea fish and drink beer. That doesn't last very long, right? I went to a job career and started finding out about mining, but had lots of jobs in between there. Mostly stayed with Goblin Pumps. I've been in the pumping industry for about 6.5 years. I also mined a lot of sand for Bonnie and Bright Sand Pit down in North Carolina, which is aggregate kind of mining, way different kind of world there. I went to this job fair and learned about gold mining and gold industry and thought it was cool. And I got on a plane, flew all the way out to Nevada, went to an MSHA class and landed at a mine, right? So it's been quite the adventure.
So let me ask you this, man. I'm going to take a step back because I'm interested in this. How was it playing for a university like Georgia?
It's a business. Football goes way different from high school to college. At college level, it's more of a business.
Is it still a rush?
Is it a rush? The rush is kind of hard to explain. More of a business rush. Lots of stress, lots of goals, high goals. You have to understand what the bigger picture is at hand, which doesn't get talked about in high school for certain, right? More of a rush at high school when you win. I was a Division II champion in a 6A school, state champion. That's a bigger rush. College is more of a longevity rush, and you have to keep the bigger picture in mind.
Position were you playing?
I was a middle linebacker.
Okay.
Yep. Graduated high school at 6'2", 265 pounds. So,
dude, so your journey was you got into the construction side of it. After college, you figured, you know what, man, I can't do football anymore. Decided I'm going to go try my hand in construction. That kind of led you in to open the door to mining.
Yeah, well, I've always been good at equipment, right? My dad, when I was a young kid, used to replace track segments and stuff like that on dozers and equipment. I've kind of always played with equipment. Funny story is I stole my first dozer when I was like 9 years old. Me and my brother fired it up and we didn't know how to cut it off, so we bailed out and went crashing down through the woods. We got a serious ass whooping for that, right? But no, I mean, I've always kind of had a passion for equipment and whatnot. It just kind of always been kind of around in the atmosphere and in the construction atmosphere. So kind of always knew I like construction. I like heavy equipment. Same goes for when I worked for Goblin Pumps. I will say that company name because I no longer work there. Great company. Went to lots of different shipyards. I've seen lots of different things, different aspects of things, big boats. I even got introduced to mining at the Quaco 9 project, which those that know about mining was an incident where Goblin Pumps was called in. We had to immediately set up the pumping to lower the water level in the mine shaft in order to save the guys' lives because they hit a big water aspect of things and it was flooding the shaft. So I've kind of been around the whole southern culture, coal mines, aggregate mines, rock quarries, steel mills, shipyards, mostly through that company, and spending 5.5 years with them. I got a lot of exposure to a lot more higher level construction. So it was real fascinating.
So then when you went to the job fair and saw a company reaching out that wanted somebody in Nevada, what made you go, I might take this leap, man. I'm going to check it out.
Well, first of all, I didn't believe that they mine that much gold in Nevada, right? Or the U.S. In the South, that's not very educated or taught, right? When I grew up as a kid, the first gold found in the state of Georgia was in Villa Rica, and my parents exposed me to that, and showed me down there where it was, and there was this guy with this little barge dredge, and he was sitting there sucking out the black sand, right? It was funny, but it was real, right? And he was on the Snake River down in Villa Rica. He was down there sucking, and he actually found a couple good flakes, right? And then also as a kid up in Dahlonega, you got what you call the Dahlonega Gold Mine, which was an underground aspect. You can go buy a pan, and you can sift as a kid and all that stuff, but they're mostly dead and old. So a lot of that big gold rush and all that stuff, honestly, as a kid growing up, you thought it was dead and gone. You didn't really think about gold mining to the magnitude that we do today. And also to think about that it's actually here in the U.S. That's an undereducated statement, even all the way back to the South. Pretty well known in the West, but it's not in the South. So it's pretty fascinating. As soon as I heard about it, I was like,
here we go.
Let's dig into this thing and see if we can get a piece of the pie, right? Immediately I signed up.
So when you thought about gold mines out in the Nevadas, I'm sure you thought Vegas first and foremost, like, oh, Vegas, they got gold out there? Or what'd you think? Because that's what people think when they think of Nevada, honestly. They don't think of northern Nevada, couple creeks, couple holes in the ground.
Yeah, in the South, immediately you think about Nevada, you think about Las Vegas or desert, right? And it's either hot and cactuses and so forth. What eye opener, right? I got the job. I flew out in January, February. It was a snowstorm and blizzard, right? Went to a mine site where at first we were changing into a Connex and stuff, right? But the equipment was huge. The first introductory and exposure I got out in the mine, it was snow covered over a big ramp, and the safety guy goes, "Would you go down this?" And I thought immediately, hell no, right? Because in the South, if it snows, we shut everything down, right? But all of a sudden, he said, well, we got to pull out of the way. Here come a 250-ton haul truck loaded, just zoomed right down the ramp and controlled everything. And he looked at me and he said, the idea is to learn how to control your situations, which I was pretty fascinated about. It was kind of new terminology.
So then you're out here. Let me even take a step back from there. You tell your wife, hey, and at this point, you got to have at least one little one. Maybe you have both of them by now. I'm not sure exactly how that falls in line. No, I think both of them were born here, weren't they?
No, so I left my little guy when he was probably about 4 to 6 months old.
And you said, hey, I'm going out to Nevada. Hold tight. I'll be back for you.
Yeah. And when I came out here, I got the job and I worked hard. I worked a lot of overtime. My biggest goal was I wanted to learn a lot about the equipment. I put myself in different stages throughout my career. First goal was to learn about the production, the equipment, how it works proficiently, and where do I see myself in that atmosphere, right? So I put a lot of focus into that, and I worked a lot of overtime. None of that to also make some money. 6 months later, I also built a house, and then I called for my wife. So I was separated for about 6 whole months.
And that's got to suck, dude, especially having the little one and you're going, man, I'm missing some of those opportunities I won't get back, but you're out there grinding for your family, or you're out there trying to do the best you can so that you can provide for your family in a different way than probably wasn't thought possible before as far as mining goes, as far as career goes. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I wouldn't say sucks for certain, right? The way I work is there was a mission. We needed to accomplish it, right? In order to have the family join us. I think a little differently when it comes to family and work, which later, if you want to explore it about, I'm more than happy to share my viewpoint on that.
No, for sure. And I guess all I'm saying is it was tough, I'm sure, on both her and you to go, we're going to Nevada. There's things to do out here. And then once you get out here, continuing be the miner that you were and progress through your career. What I'm getting to is that Tim Chapman was one of the first knuckleheads I got to meet out at a mine site. And when I was out there, I think one of the first interactions we had was about how to make better moonshine. So that started our relationship. And then I realized Tim had a wealth of knowledge and he understood the mining and he understood how to run equipment. Was anything from running a haul truck to you throwing me on a dozer at nights and saying, hey, man, you need to do this. Not that your training was bad. I was just a horrible dozer operator. But
it was good exposure, right?
It was. And you're always one of those guys that would be willing to jump in and you actually knew your shit.
Yeah.
You were somebody that wouldn't bullshit you. If you weren't doing it right, you'd tell them why you weren't doing it right. If you weren't progressing or doing something that you should have been progressing at, you said, hey, man, here's where you're screwing up. And that goes a long way, not just from the operator side, and we'll get into your more professional side of what the role you're playing now, but as an operator, because I know you're not in operations anymore, is there days you look back and go, man, I miss being an operator?
Yes and no. I mean, there's different elements to a mine, right? So I'm very passionate about what we do in general all the way across the board. So it doesn't matter what role I'm playing. And in my mind, I kind of relate it back to football. You can't sit here and dwell if you're the middle linebacker. How come you're not the quarterback, right? You have to play that role. And each role has a very valid aspect to it. You have to fulfill it for 100% of that role. So when I'm in the equipment operating side, I have to encompass everything that requires, whether if it's the training, the skill, the knowledge, right? And then as well, when I met you, I was kind of doing equipment operating and training for the crew. So you switch another hat. For me, it's about switching hats and making sure you live up to the expectation of the role that you're playing. Because the big picture, like I said, is the value of every role that we play in mining.
Right, one percentage that you play in the overall scheme of things. And so kind of walking through that, when you went from a haul truck operator, you're chasing loads. That's your role at that point, is to get as many loads as you can, run as hard as you can, and be that person. When you go into the training side of it or training people, now your role is to make sure that person can be the best person they can be. When I met you, I think you were running dozer at the time, but you still didn't hesitate to take a step back and go, hey man, think about this when you're running a haul truck, or think about this when you're lining up to spot against that berm. And so that, even though you said you take your role, what's in front of you right there, what I noticed and what I take away from a Tim Chapman is you were never done helping the person coming on learn that role a little bit better. It helped you be a dozer operator better, but it also helped me as a truck driver go, this is what he's looking for. And you had a way of doing it. Instead of yelling at somebody, you told him, because you get those dozer operators, what the hell are you doing, son of a bitch, blah, blah, blah. But you had a way of going, hey, man, meet me on channel 2 or whatever, right? Switch over to 15. Let's talk about this. And you would be able to walk me through, hey, dude, if you line up a little bit differently this way. And that goes a long way for those new guys that maybe not have been in mining, not have been around equipment.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tim Chapman's the brand new miner's best friend. I'll tell you, the first time I'd ever seen a haul truck or anything bigger than like a freaking semi was the first time I stepped onto the mine site. And at day one, I already got my tutelage coming from Tim Chapman. So it was pretty nice, and yeah. And at the time he was one of our main blade hands. So here he is maintaining the road, and there's a brand new driver, and blade hands out there know, like, the brand new drivers are your worst nightmare, because they don't know how wide the damn haul truck is. They don't know where they're at on the haul road. But he never ever got mad. As a matter of fact, there was something that I was, that he could help me out with. It was to the side, one-on-one, saying, hey, listen, just understand how wide your haul truck is. Know where you're at, and you'll be fine. And he never freaked out. Probably should have, because I know there was 1 or 2 times where I came really close to running him over.
So, Tim, was there an experience, I guess, was there somebody that mentored you that way, that made you understand the value of that, or is that just kind of a personality trait of Tim Chapman?
Back in the day, I mean, there kind of is, but it doesn't relate to mining, right? So there's a gentleman named Andy Pickett, right, which I'll throw his name out there. I met Andy Pickett years ago. He's a big business owner, whatnot. Really took me underneath his wing. But standing back and watching Andy has involvement and engagement with other people. And even the same concepts, a lot of his concepts are the way I view work in life as well. And maybe that's some of the stuff that you've seen. And not only that, being in sports almost all my life, you want people on the same game page, right? And if you sit there and hoard information, it doesn't matter what it is, how to drive or whatnot or another. I don't do myself any better, and I don't do the team any better. So you have to project that out, right? If I can help you in one way or another, and you become better, I become better. If we're just a vessel that sits here and sinks information in, right? The vessel's full, kind of resilient to new information and willing to even grow yourself, right? So every bit of information that you get in, I truly believe you got to share it out, right? So that's some of the stuff Andy taught me in life.
So, and that's interesting because that's one of the questions that I wanted to ask you too, is how you said that didn't necessarily relate to mining, where you kind of pulled that from. But I think that that's one of the most interesting things about mining and about the people that we end up working with on a day-to-day basis is we've all got this different background, right? So with you, and you were in the South doing your thing down there, when you came out here to Nevada, what did you bring from your experiences in the South to mining? And what part of it was like, oh man, this is totally different about mining versus what I was doing before?
A pretty hard question. I mean, literally the mindsets in the South are a little bit different than the Western culture. Literally, it's like 9 day. First of all, you don't have sweet tea, right? I got a joke, right? We got to lighten the mood. But yeah, for certain, there are even work ethics that are way different, right? There's work ethics in the South that would not even work here in the West. Some of your guys is 12.5-hour shifts and constantly working. Unless you're a factory worker in the South and only been brought up in the factory working atmosphere, if you're in a construction atmosphere, no, that's like, no, don't go there. So there's some learning challenges there for certain, right? That I had to be open-minded to and had to learn even your guys' way. Are they the best? Yeah, I think they're pretty good, right? There's a couple of blends in between. Southern people are more hospitable. We're willing to talk to people. We're willing to be open-minded. The Western culture sometimes may or may not be. Don't get me wrong. Even being here and from the South at first, the first 5 years was probably the hardest. People ridiculing you the way you talk or how you pronounce a word. But it even pulls back into mining. People calling different things. But the nice part is the way I am and the way I was brought up and my mentors taught me is you have to be open-minded to that and then you can purge forward.
Well, and that's a great point, dude, because if you don't talk like a Westerner, I guess what I'll say, right? You have a Southern draw, or even from Minnesota, and I suppose, and, different things like that. People pay attention to that and they catch on to that real quick. One of the funnest stories that I have with Tim, and you might have to tell this because I wasn't there, but it still cracks me up to this day. Talk about the cows, shooting cows.
So we were on the bus, right? And the guys were talking about cow tags, right? And I see all these signs, right? And it says open range, this and that and other. And I do see all these cows just hiding out in the bushes. And I'm thinking, what do you mean, cows, right? And they were like, oh, yeah, you putting in your tags? What do you mean? You can hunt those things? And they're like, they caught me hook, line, and sinker, right? And they're like, oh, sure, yeah, you bet you can hunt those things. And I was like, are they cows that go wild from the rancher and they just need to find them and just get rid of them? Or what's the deal there, right? I never was exposed in the South to elk or anything like that. So even the atmosphere that you're in is way different from the East Coast to the West Coast. I mean, critters and so forth.
Creek and crick and all that stuff.
Creek, crick, clevis, holler. So then they got me, right? We're on the bus and they're like, they see a herd of female elk running up the hill and they're like, oh, look at all those cows. And I'm like, it hit me like a light bulb came on. And I was like, all right, good job, guys. You were talking about moo cows because I was picturing in my mind domestic moo cows that went wild, right? But instead they're talking about the female elk. So even the verbiage sometimes can be misconstrued. So it's constantly a learning process that takes a little while for certain.
Well, I think it's cool, dude, because you pluck any one of us out and put them in the South in Georgia, and there's going to be some shit we need to learn too, right?
Yeah,
and
for
so
certain.
The cool thing is from you is that you exposed yourself to that. Not very many people get to understand that or have that opportunity. And miners know that you're going to catch shit. If you have a weakness, they're going to find it in the mining community. It's almost a rite of passage because you're going to catch shit right at the beginning, and they almost test: is this guy going to be a tattletale? Is this guy going to be a punk? Is he going to talk crap back? How is this going to work, and how am I going to work with him? It's weird, but it's the mining community that I've experienced. And as soon as you're in those stripes, it's like, he's not a bad cat.
Well, definitely in the operation side. In the operation side, I think some of that is because operation works so hard, they understand all the risk and so forth, that it's more of a bonding process, right? And they're wanting to see, can they bond with you? Can they trust you? Can they develop you? Can you be on the same page, right? And honestly, throughout my 12 and a half years, about 12 and a half years here in Nevada. That's what I really take out of the portion is it's not so much a slander or so forth. It's more or less, can we bond? Can we trust? Can we develop within this guy or can we not?
It's almost a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Can I trust him?
It's family.
It really is.
It's family. And it's because I honestly, and I'll say this, I think it's a little bit the way that guys just work in general. I've never had a meaningful relationship that have some sort of shit giving involved in it, right? That's what we do. We pick at each other and we poke at each other, but at the end of the day, we're there to help, right?
Well, and I think you're right. It's a guy thing to give each other shit, but in the mining, I think it becomes almost an
minor
expectation.
thing. Yeah,
like
sure.
you're gonna get some shit. How thick is your skin?
Well, kind of for certain. I mean, it's definitely a different atmosphere, and I don't think it's intentful, but therefore what all mining brings with work hours, stress, fatigue, this and that and other, it's almost a test to see if you're strong enough to endure that atmosphere. Other people are wanting to bond with other people to go home safely. So you have to develop that trust. And that's kind of how I view it.
It's like a fraternity. Like
Yeah.
if you're in on a fraternity, man, you're in. And then you start to narrow down that fraternity. And where I probably joined the fraternity is when we did mine rescue, and was in there with Tim. I think you were in mine rescue before I was. Then we had a real opportunity to kind of go under some good leadership in a Mike Riley and really see what we could do and our potential was for mine rescue. And then ultimately that ended you in a safety and health mine rescue coordinator role, right? Where you're running and helping these guys the same way you did as an operator. You're helping these guys from a mine rescue standpoint, right?
Yeah, so my new role at the moment is safety and health specialist. One of my tasks is to be the mine rescue coordinator. It's about a 50-50 split at the moment. 50% of my day is mine rescue, 50% of my day is safety and health. I'm mostly heavily influenced on the operations side. But yeah, I mean, it's a great atmosphere, but still a lot of old school techniques and stuff that even you learn on the rescue side is still a bond. It's another family. So
it is. It's another fraternity, and this is where I think it transitioned from you. I'm speculating right now, but from your standpoint, dude, I watched you go from an operator that would help out another operator to an emergency responder who would help another emergency responder. So I spent hours and hours and hours on the bus with Tim trying to learn knots, and it was like that cow moment for you, right? It was, I realize they're talking about elk and not domestic cows. He looked at me and said, you're tying your knots all left-handed. He said, you're doing everything, but it's all left-handed. I don't know why the hell you're doing that. He's like, but you're doing it all left-handed. And from that point, I went from the 27 knot list that we had to tying them in 16 minutes. I went from 16 minutes to 8 minutes, cut my time in half. He's the guy that understands the game and then helps you figure out the back end of it and how to get better. And so I think the role that you're in right now is almost a perfect role for you because you're able to mentor some of those guys. You've been in there. You've seen how it's done. You know how to work through it. And how much of that do you realize that you contribute to, man?
Probably none until you bring it up, right? Because it's who I am. Right. The world I was brought up in and the people that I use as mentors, I'm focused in on my dad. He gets mad all the time. Tim's in his bubble. This is my bubble. This is me. This is who I am. This is things that are me, right? It's not until you sit down and have a conversation like this from Jason and from you and even from Chris, things that I've done, right? It makes me go, oh, wow, what the heck? I don't quite realize those. Why? Because I'm still on a mission. My life is still going, right? And like I said, the more valid information that I take in, if I expose back out, I continue to grow. That's a big philosophy in my life. I think if a person hoards things and doesn't educate him or her to her left hand or right hand side, how in the world do you keep prospering in life? You become stagnant. And me personally, I don't ever want to become stagnant, right? When you're in football and then all of a sudden you get in a bad wreck and your football career gets ruined, you got an option. Are you going to sit here and dwell upon the bad, or are you just going to keep moving? In my life, I'm the kind of guy that wants to keep moving. Now, if I can give you something else and you move too, great, right? That's all part of it. Everybody should be moving forward in life. If you choose to stay back and become stagnant, well, that was your choice, which is sad. I encourage you to keep going. There's a lot of great things to life. You just have to get out there and go do them.
Well, here's one thing I'll bring up, dude. And this is another thing. As much as I've complimented you, I also got to ask you, why are you so goddamn hard-headed?
Well, You'll have to paraphrase that a little more. I don't really view
Dude,
my point as being hard-headed.
You and I have went the rounds over and over and over about something as simple as you should write with your left hand instead of your right hand. I don't know. But some people, myself included, you and I have butt heads before. And I think that's a unique part of you. You have an opinion, you stick to your guns. That's a good thing. It's a good quality. But tell me about that. Why are you so passionate about what you do?
Well, it's life, right? At the end of the day, it's life. This is how you conduct life. This is how you go. And ultimately, and like I described earlier, and this is Tim's bubble. I mean, granted, I'm not trying to influence all my bubble on you, but this is life. This is why life keeps going. It's okay to agree, to disagree, or whatnot. You still have to spread that information. Whether if you want to hear it or not, and I see it, whether if you use it right now or not, it's up to you. Somebody can offer you a tool and you use it right now, or know that tool might be good 6 months later. You don't know. But if you close your ears and close your mind and close your eyes, kind of like building scales over your eyelids, now aspects change. And you are literally having tools out there that another person might have thrown down, but yet you're neglecting to even pick them up, which in my mind is sad. But guess what? Them tools are still there. So refresh your memory.
And I think that's exactly what I was hitting on is you and I have had some fun conversations, dude. It can spawn from anything from how to run a blade to why you believe the way you believe religiously, right? We've had some good conversations. And what it does is Tim a lot of times and I a lot of times, we're both hard-headed and we stick to our guns. The cool thing about Tim is that he'll take what you say, go back, think about it, and then he'll come back to you the next day, the next week, the next month and go, hey, I get you what you're saying here now, but this is what I was trying to tell you to begin with. And so again, it's that learning aspect, it's that learning portion of it that I think has helped me through the way, dude. I'm glad you stick to your guns because what you do is you take it back and you go, oh, this is what he was trying to say. And now I'm going to come back and show you the light, show you the path in a different way. The other side of that is you might not always know that. You've also came back to me and go, hey, man, I understand what you're saying. I was misinterpreting this or wrong. And my point is that you're easy to work with. You're easier to work with than what people think. And me and you are a little bit probably closer than most, right? And it's that uniqueness about you, dude, to take and reflect that people don't really understand is that even if we have a hard-nosed conversation, that you do. And it could be from making moonshine to...
You know, I mean, something that's great about life and a good life lesson for anybody. So I look at this as the constructive criticism atmosphere, right? For certain, if someone throws down something, whether if you think it's good or bad or whatnot, you should do research on it. Maybe they threw you a tool that you may not need. Don't just fill your vessel full of crap, right? Fill your stuff full of good stuff. Some person might give you great advice, but guess what? It might be all bad. So do your research, do your homework. And it's okay to agree to disagree and then recheck and go, what was that guy really talking about? But you know what? To keep building those relationships, because it's about networking and still prospering for yourself, you should go back and reevaluate and say, and humble yourself, which is big, and say, hey man, I was wrong. Technically, you helped me. I appreciate it. You allowed me to see that from a different viewpoint, which is all part of the process of growing, prospering, and so forth in life on the business. And you could probably take the same concepts and apply them to life, but I don't.
And that's probably a better way of what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Is that you do reflect on that. You do take that and go, man, you know what? I got to humble myself. And it's cool. I think Tim's probably a good example of the typical miner out there that wants to do good, that wants to hustle hard. What I'll say is unique about you. You really made a profession out of being perfect or trying to be perfect and knowing everything that you were doing. And I think your role now, I'm just curious how that's going for you because you are the head honcho for the mine rescue side of stuff, right? And coming up in the game from the mine rescue side of it, and Chris, you might have some opinion on this, but how difficult's that been for you to be humble sometimes and to continue to be hard-headed sometimes? And where do you see that going for you? Is that something that you want to do long term?
That's kind of a tough question. The role I'm currently playing right now and what the team's constantly doing, I'll give all the credit and love to the team because they are the boots on the ground. Supplying them with the tools that they need to prosper and grow. Is that awesome? Yeah, you bet. The safety aspect that I do as well, very awesome. So I'm kind of in a unique role right now. And if you can manage and balance the two, it's almost the perfect atmosphere for myself at the moment. because like you said, not only can I help provide tools for the guys on the rescue team for them to prosper and grow, but it also allows me to be optimistic, look at due processes and so forth on the operation side and throughout the mine to maybe help others grow. So I'm kind of networking in two different atmospheres at the moment. And I think it's very challenging. The plate's very full, don't get me wrong.
You haven't missed a meal.
No.
Damn.
No. That's a low blow there.
I had to give it to you,
Hey,
dude.
neither is Derek.
Yeah,
No, I've gotten very
No doubt,
comfortable.
no.
Don't you worry about that.
There's a reason why we podcast and we're not on YouTube, right?
Face for radio.
Yeah, no. Still, I mean, it's, will I continue to go down this journey? I don't know. I mean, to me, the sky's the limit. I don't know. I don't plan that far out, to be honest.
I got a question about mine rescue and what your thoughts on this are. And we talked about this a little bit earlier as a group. In my experience with mine rescue, I've watched a lot of people come into it and they've gone on to bigger, better things with that. And I've always had the question, is it the type of people that come into mine rescue that promote that type of career growth and that type of thing? Or is it the elements of mine rescue, learning leadership qualities, those types of things? Is it a combination of both? What do you think, Tim?
I really stand strong on it's the development and the process, right? If the program has all the right elements and they're constantly developing those people, then that's when you're more than likely going to see the heavily influence of somebody growing and somebody going elsewhere where they might do. Think about it. You get a person that comes in that only runs equipment and all of a sudden they have the slightest bit of notion that all they want to do is help. You wind up developing that person with other tools and other aspects of things in life. Then they wind up building a passion on it where it just becomes their passion. Well, the program is what helped influence that. So that's the reason I like to give the program the credit. The reward is when you get to that point. When you get to the point where maybe somebody decided mine is not my career and you see them work in the county ambulance and so forth, etc., that's when you see the reflection of the reward of the program. My influences on the aspect of rescue is to ensure the aspect of the program, to make sure that the opportunity is there for each and every individual and make sure that they're getting the quality and the training and all that aspect that they possibly could do if they want to grow. Don't get me wrong, rescue also provides a great service for the mine, but I think the value truly lies in giving other people the tools and the opportunities to grow and to help people in time of need.
So let me ask you this. If you never had mine rescue or never had rescue, would you be in the position that you are right now?
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah, so back in my childhood days and growing up throughout my life, when I was a little kid, I've kind of always been willing to help people. A horrific story. My next door neighbor lady, one time when I was about 9-10 years old, she was boiling some grease. She was about to deep fry back when you had phones on a cord. And she was stretching and talking, and somehow she spilt it all over. Her flesh wound up peeling right away off. She ran outside. She was screaming for help. And literally, as a young kid, I was the one over there comforting her. So there is a side of Tim that cares deeply about people just in general. And I knew this from a young age. I don't have to do rescue or firefighting or whatnot to care deeply about a person. But I do know, as my journey in life, there is a part of me that truly cares about people. And I always kind of bring that back up. When I played football, I was constantly there for people on the team. You having a bad day, I wanted to lift you up. I wanted to be a motivator of some sort. And it's mostly because I knew from an early childhood aspect that I just care about different people, and I identified that right away. So luckily, throughout my whole life career, somehow in some way, I always wind up putting people first before me.
So let me ask you this, because in mine rescue, you're one of the first ones to jump in and get her done. Actually, me and you got teamed up quite a bit on some stuff.
Did we?
Those are great stories, and we'll have to talk about it another time. What is the one thing about mine rescue that you cannot handle?
Childbirth, right? Getting better at it, right?
I had to bring it up.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's great that life happens. It's just everybody's got to recognize their weaknesses as well. I'm not one who can muscle childbirth or any kind of birthing aspects. I mean,
Hey, Tim, that's your chance to play quarterback, buddy.
no, that's all right. I'm good. I recognize my position.
I love it, dude. I had to bring that up, dude, because that has been something I think that throughout the years we've highlighted, and it's been funny. Tim, and he'll tell you, hey, man, I can't do childbirth. All we had to do one competition was unload a pregnant lady, and Tim's almost throwing up.
Yeah, but I called for assistance, right? You have to recognize your weaknesses and make sure you get other people involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what, in your opinion, is your biggest impact?
Biggest impact in which way?
Mining period, whether it's been in operations or whether it's been on the health and safety side?
You know, I mean, Jason, to be honest, for me, that's a tough question because my life is still on such a big endeavor. I'm still pursuing the atmosphere of mining and constantly growing. What's the big impact? Like I said today, I don't really know. I get shocked just by hearing you guys tell stories. So I'm going to continue doing whatever it is I do. People can pick up on that. That's awesome. I like being a team player. Maybe that's what we can say is an impact.
So let me ask you this, Tim. Who got you into mine rescue and why?
Well, that's a tough one to explain. And when other people are going to hear this, they're probably either going to A, frown upon it, or B, they're going to cheer about it. No one highly influenced me to get into mine rescue. I did some volunteer firefighting back in the day, also with college and so forth, etc. And like I said, I always cared about people. But when I came to mining, I didn't trust the people that were rescuing me. They really put it out there like they were trying to get a t-shirt and this, that, and other. You could tell right away, even from afar, when they practiced, they weren't proficient at their skills. And it got to the point where we were literally making, you got to keep in mind, we were working for a small operation at that time, probably 15, 20 people per crew, versus now there's 50 plus something people on a crew, about 500 employees in general. So when I first started mining, it was very small. It was kind of a bad idea when you're sitting there, and I had to give myself a reality check. I'm sitting there making deals, whether if it would have been you, like you were my coworker, I'll risk my job to make sure I get you to town if you get hurt, because we didn't trust the program. So that was more of a turn off versus a turn on. So I took that energy and said, wait a minute, I'm sitting here starting to be the naysayer when I could step up and make a difference. And then it wasn't until that tipping point that I joined Mine Rescue. But I went in with a motive. My motive was to change things around. My motive was also to change the concept to the other guys that are out there, boots on the ground and working. I didn't want them having to reluctantly make the same kind of deals over and over with their coworkers when I knew we could actually do something positive and better to make a difference. So that's why I joined Mine Rescue. I more or less joined it for the people because I wanted to make a difference and be professional about it.
Well, and I think that sums up who you are, man. And that's kind of why I asked the question, is because when you see a deficiency somewhere or you see a problem, you're solution driven. You're not going to be part of the problem. You're going to be part of the solution. And that's what probably got me into mine rescue, to be honest. I mean, Dino was doing it, and then I loved doing it, and it was something I wanted to do. But your goal, and that story that you just told me right there, was like, hey, man, we were making deals when I got here on, I'll lose my job, but I'll take you to the hospital. I'm not going to have somebody else. And so I came in right at the tail beginning of that, I guess I would say. And he said, we're changing it. And I went, all right, I'm in. Let's do this. Let's figure it out. And we did, man. And that was, dude, I honestly appreciate a lot of the things that we've had and experienced together, pulling over on the side of the highway so I can take a shit on the road, whatever it is, right? There's a ton of cool stories that we could go into forever on this. Regardless of that, your journey going forward, where do you see yourself?
Where do I see myself? You mean like in 5 years or what?
5 years, 10 years?
I will probably always be in mining for certain. I'm real passionate about the overall outcome of mining, the purpose of mining. That influences me. That's what keeps me driven. The opportunity to network with people all the way around the world is just awesome. Now we're talking about global mining for certain. That's where I see myself. Definitely still in that mainstream. Whatever task is next coming up in the future, I'm just willing to take it on. In the past, I've done several aspects in mining, not only run equipment, worked in process, helped out the shop, been on CI teams or CI programs, mine rescue now. Yes, safety and health and mine rescue. So to me, I'm just happy to go to work every day. So it doesn't really matter what the future brings. I know it'll bring something, and I'll just keep doing what I'm doing.
So what you're saying is you can be the GM eventually. We run that shit.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
I don't really know. I'll let you throw that out for the
Let me ask
record or
this, 'cause
something. But
this was something I was interested in, and I just was curious if you'll be a Nevada miner for the rest of your life.
I can't neither say that or yay, nay, or what, right? Mining's all the way around the world. And the more you continue to develop and grow, if people need help, they need help. If they don't need help, they don't need help. But regardless, at the end of the day, producing global gold to go on the bigger scale market is the main task at hand. So personally, I cannot say yay, nay, what's the next 5 years. I just hope I got a job.
But what my question, I guess I'm tiptoeing around it, is you left the Northern Nevada market at one point to go and try your hand back east for a short amount of time. And so can you talk to me a little bit about that and why you decided to come back? And not naming any names, but what intrigued you to go out there, and then what ultimately brought you back?
Well, ultimately, them boys are on a great mission. If you think about it, and what you're referring to is a mine that started off in South Carolina. When you think about the history, like I told you, the Dahlonega mining was what made a history for years, even when I was a kid. If those guys can accomplish that and pull it off, wow, that's amazing. What's amazing about it is literally they're creating history for the South. And if anybody knows anything about the South, history is a part of the culture, right? Civil Wars, this and that and other, Williamsburg, Gettysburg, I mean, everything, right? History's,
Wahlberg.
yeah, I don't know. There's a bunch of birds in there for certain, right?
Pittsburgh.
But history is everything for the South culture. If those guys can accomplish that task, awesome, dude. I'm willing to kudos them, encourage them all the way through. But far as my endeavor and my portion on them, it just wasn't a right fit at the moment.
Yeah. And that makes sense, right? Not every fit's a right fit, even though you think it is. So let's talk about the new fit and the new stuff that's going on. You're in your new role. You're out there at let's say a mining company up here in Northern Nevada, and you hear about this Barrick Newmont merger. What do you think about that, man?
What do I think about it? Well, that's their politic at the moment. That's a different level to the game, right? It's no different if you're going to say, hey, two NFL teams are sitting there merging together. I think the more people sit there and dwell upon the higher politics, they could be taking all that energy and focusing it on their jobs and their task and so forth and what's happening at their pits, which actually makes a better culture of mining in the workforce. And when people wind up dwelling and trying to get their fingers in something that's higher that they don't truly understand at the moment, that's more of a bad idea, and they probably shouldn't reach out to that aspect of things. Myself as an individual, have I heard about this merger? Yeah, somewhat. But for me, I treat it like a whisper in the wind. I don't pay it no mind until it reflects me, and then I need to put my portion on it or my focus in on it.
I like it, man. So you handle business when you have to. Otherwise, it's just noise.
That's just noise, dude. I mean, there's noise all the way around the world. I mean, if you keep going, oh, is this company, that company, la, la, all you're doing is you're cluttering your brain with a bunch of other stuff, when technically you could be putting that energy into your job, your focus, what you do, what you contribute to your company, and how it works. And to be honest, I think that's the bigger picture more people need to stay focused in on, besides just listening to gossips and so forth, etc. Keep in mind, this is a global business. Everybody that produces gold here in Nevada is on the global market, which I think is a plus for every nation around the world. That's the higher picture. Can we produce gold? Can we be safe? Can we all go home at the end of the day?
Absolutely, dude. No, I love it. That was actually I had nothing else to say after that, so I'm kind of lost for words.
No, you're good.
Where do I go, man?
You're good, man.
I want to kind of shift focus a little bit. We're going to be winding down here in a few, and I just kind of want to ask, who is Tim Chapman away from the mine site? You know, because we're here talking about mining and the career and how we got there and all that stuff, but we want to know what's up with Tim outside of work. What are you
great
doing?
Point, right? Because literally you guys caught me on a day off, and I'm having to get back in the work mine. But Tim does not bring work back back over to home. How I maintain a home life is literally I separate work from home. Home is home. The best part of my day is actually at about 4 o'clock now in the morning when I get that last kiss from my wife. And I tell her goodbye. And she says, be safe. And I say, hey, it's part of my job. I come home safe, right? Literally, I separate myself in between work and home. But off the clock, when I'm at home, love to coach football, big and active in the community. Used to do a lot of hunting and fishing. Not as much anymore. I got a boy that's about to be 13 and one that's 10, about to go on 11. I'm involved into them. I don't bring mining back home. Like you said, just like all the politics, this, that, and other. Core value that I think I have about myself in between separating home from work, it's my job to go and work. It's not my job to bring my work home and create all that stress in the home atmosphere. I don't want them to worry about the price of gold. Is dad going to have a job? Is it going to drop? Is there a merger going on? And you might lose your job and all the other politics and bullcrap. So we focus in on family and life and home. It's my job when I get home at the end of the day, make sure my boy's up to date on his grade, make sure he knows about right from wrong in life in general, to coach those aspects of wrong. And then it's also part of my job to be a good husband to my wife, to help out. For years, she didn't even work. It's part of my job to step up and fill the gaps and to create the home atmosphere. It's part of my job when I go home on the side to develop my kids, to to teach them right from wrong. I want them, I joke around, and if anybody's listening, please forgive me in my verbiage, but it's harder for me to teach my kids to be a nerd than it is an athlete. So I put the focus in on the nerd aspect. I want to develop my son to be that. And so I push him, I educate him, I teach him about other things in life. And then I get involved and engaged. So literally when I'm away from work, home is home. And it's all about family involvement, development, and I can't get them close enough to me for certain.
I feel like that's a struggle for a lot of people that work in this industry, whether you're the hourly level or if you're working salary and you're opening up the laptop on the weekend. I feel like a lot of people struggle with that. I know that I have in the past, and I'm on the same page with you now, or at this point where I separate the two things completely. But what would you tell somebody, like a tip maybe for helping with that? Is it just the outlook of separating, hey, my job at work is my job at work, my job at home is to run my...
Truly, like a life lesson to me is understanding your roles. Like you guys identified, when I go to work, that's a new family. When I come home, that's a different family. You have to understand what family you're dealing with and not to mix the two families together and just live by that. You don't mix the mining family with the main family. It's just something you don't do. Why? Because we all know, right? Like the mining family might be tough or resilient or this and that and other. That may not be a good mixture with the home family. So don't do it. Find new friends, a different culture or whatever aspect. But you have to have that separation. Home is home and work is work. And you have to force yourself to get in this is what I do to work. Now you might have your whys in between. Why do you work? Oh, I make money or so forth or et cetera, or I do this and that and other for it. And if you're that guy, that's fine. But in my mind, I don't blend the two together. And I don't even like when work winds up trying to force you to blend the other one in there. To me, I look after the family that's at work because that's the work family. And when I go home, my job changes. I look after the family that's at home. It's my job to look after them because I'm the father figure or the leading role figure or whatever it might be, right? So that's the reason I focus work at work and home at home. And I just stay true to it. To me, there's no other, why don't you do that? No. It has to be cut and dry. No difference than a color black and a color white. There's two separate colors.
So you're drawing that hard line.
You have to draw a line in the sand and you have to understand it and know literally, hey, when I'm on this side of the fence, this is who I am. When I'm on this side of the fence, this is who I am.
I like that though, man. I struggle with that. And so that's where I don't necessarily let work stay at work. And I bring it home a lot of times. And I'm, hey man, I got to get on the internet I got to get online and do this and this and this. So listening to you guys talk, and Chris, I think you do a very good job of it. And some things I'm learning from you, but also Tim, hearing you talk about it, there needs to be that work-life balance. And I don't know that I have that figured out yet, or at least don't have it perfected to the point that I want it, because I do. I'm eager to get to that next level, to do that next thing. And what that means for me is putting in X amount more hours. But that's not always the case. If you can't get your job done in 40 hours, then you're obviously not efficient in what you do. I don't know that that's the case, but what I'm feeling.
Yeah, and just like you, I struggle as well. I struggle really, really hard with it. But what advice would you give to someone like me, someone who's got that issue at home, like where they just can't separate the two? Sometimes it's impossible. What would you tell someone who's stuck in that rut?
My biggest advice would be to, if they can identify that rut and they know they got the issue, immediately start working on baby steps of fixing it. If you don't, it's detrimental.
What would be the first step in your mind?
Literally, if you're married, thank your wife. Start thanking her. She's supporting you through this process. She knows and she sees what you're doing and the challenges that you are. But literally, you have to start separating work and home life. Start increasing the home life and just start telling people no. If you're behind and they're asking you to do stuff and it's your days off, just tell them no. You have to speak up and say no. Keep in mind, in the mining world, dirt's still going to be in the ground. The report will still get written, whether if you're doing it or not, somebody else will. Everything will still be on time. It's not like the world's going to quit moving round and round if you slow your processes down in order to spend time at home. It's not the end of the world. It might feel like the end of the world if you screw everything up. We can already say divorce in mining has already a high rate.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right? That's a fair statement. And anybody who wants to do that judgment, they can see divorce or alcoholism or just stupid moves. Why? Because people don't understand that, listen, we work long shifts, we work around the clock, we work several days around the world. You have to have a separation, and what you call it is a brain break. You can't constantly be bringing in the aspects of work into the home life because your brain's not going to separate the two. You physically have to start implementing in things to do to separate the two, and you have to put your foot down. If you wait and go, oh, I'll catch up on that, or hey, sooner or later it'll come around, well, guess what? You're going to be caught up in that trap and it's going to be too late. I mean, that's just real talk.
I like it, but what about the guy that's chasing the dollar because I can work 6 days in a row and get 2 more days of overtime, 3 more days of overtime?
Yeah, sweet. I chased a dollar for years, right? But keep in mind, you chase dollars, you recognize when you hit that goal, then you take that break, right?
So that would be just you have those goals.
If you have a goal to chase that dollar, you know what the goal is. As soon as you hit it, don't sit there and become dependent on it. Take the break. You have to separate the two. Well, put your family on the same page. When I left my wife and kids for 6 months, I didn't fly back east. I didn't even go and visit. All I did was make a phone call. You said it was hard. I did. To me, it was very easy. Me and my wife were on the exact same page. I told her what my goal was, what I was going to accomplish, and I stuck to it. You have to put people on the same page of even what your goals are. So if your goal is to get from point A to point B in a short amount of time and you're doing a bunch of overtime to do it or something, well, hey, communicate that to the rest of the people. Because if you don't, then you're going to have resistance. And resistance can wind up to heartaches, alcoholism, or so forth. You have to literally treat this as, what task am I doing? What do I need to accomplish? And move forward. If a person goes at mining with absolutely no structure, well, they're not going to have a long mining career.
So part of the way that I look at it too, in terms of the work-life balance, is that you're almost, if you're not giving the attention that you need to at home, you're making your work life harder. I really do feel like that when your home life is good, you work better. And when you're fulfilling all your roles there and also being fulfilled by your family role, that you will accomplish more in life in general, but also at work, right? And I also think that if that email can't wait or that report can't wait, I'm not paid enough money, right? If the entire mine site's going to shut down because I'm not sending out this spreadsheet, I should be the CEO, right? Because that's what it sounds like. And I think that we have a tendency in the work environment to kind of overinflate problems and say that they can't wait. It needs to be done right now. But it's like Tim just said, hey, that dirt's still in the ground. We're still going after it. We still got our eye on the goal, and everything can be taken to the extreme and say that, well, if nothing gets done, nothing gets done. But you need to balance those things with your family, because the family at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. That's what you're even doing it for.
To add to that, I mean, because I love what you exactly say, you have to be happy in what you're going to prosper and do. If you're not happy, go find a different job. I mean, it may not be mining, or it might be a different aspect of mining, or what job. You can't prosper and not be happy. The two run hand in hand. If you come home because you're mad or sad or this, that, and the other, because your day's not going right, you need to reevaluate yourself. I love mining, right? I chose mining. Mining didn't choose me. right? And I think that's important. You get some people that grew up in mining towns and they think, well, I got to go mine. Now all of a sudden they're not happy. Maybe they need to reevaluate themselves in order to make them relationships even better on the home front. Because if you're mad, pissed off all the time at work, well, sure, it's going to spill over. But are you reevaluating yourself to see if you're happy? And I think that's a good importance.
Or even if you're causing it, right? Because your unhappiness can be the reason why your home life isn't working out. And I think reflection that we kind of talked about earlier plays a role in all of that. So I don't know, man. I appreciate having you on. I think we're gonna wrap her up, huh?
Thanks for having me on.
You'll be on in the future. Tim's gonna be one of those guests that we have on over and over because he's got a ton to say.
Yeah, one of the ones we can't get rid of.
Before we get out of here, give us something southern. Give us some southern twang.
That's some southern twang.
Yeah. Hey, you want to start singing some Randy Travis or?
No, he's got some of those words that he'll throw out a line or two. It's like, all right.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of hard. A southern twang.
So just listen to him.
Just listen to him.
The last 5 words you just said.
You're making me listen to myself in headphones. That's what makes it kind of hard.
You're all good, man. We just appreciate you coming on, dude. Mining Minds LLC, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're going to have Tim Chapman up there. He'll get us some pictures of him and his family so we know what he does mining, why he mines, and the type of person that he is. Thanks for having you on, brother.
Yeah, thanks to be on. I really appreciate the opportunity. Love to come back if you guys ever want anything.
I might just throw this out there. It may or may not be a true story, but if you know Tim Chapman, he may or may not have some good moonshine.
That might be a false story. You never
I know.
know.
That's totally false. So, hey, thanks for joining us, guys. You guys have a good night. Thanks, Knuckleheads, for listening in. Adios.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, brass in on our website at miningmindsllc.com.